Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3. Three of He's Gonna Need Therapy. This is your host Brandon, and with me, my co-host
Joey,
how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good.
Good. You just ate some lunch there, huh?
Yeah.
What'd you have?
I had ramen.
Yeah, what'd you put in it though? Talk about the good stuff, man.
I put in some leftover jalapenos and lime juice.
Okay, and how was it?
It was good.
Good.
We still have to drink the juice.
Yeah, okay. Why don't you take a big drink of that juice, man?
Okay.
Just do it. He is now taking a large drink of juice. Oh, he's going in for seconds. Oh, he's using his fork to get the extra noodle. He's got a noodle hanging from his chin. Yep. Okay, he's chewing. He's chewing. Oh, and he's back.
Hello.
How was it?
It was good.
I think we should leave that in.
Yeah?
Yeah, that was good. A little play-by-play.
Okay.
Okay, so last episode we talked about Child's Play and the Wizard. And so this episode we're talking about 1992's Candyman. And then 2019's Jojo Rabbit. I believe it was last year, right?
It was.
So let's just jump right in.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think? Okay. So 1992's Candyman, directed by Bernard Rose, and starring Virginia Madsen, Tony Todd, Xander Berkeley, Cassie Lemons, and Vanessa Williams. And Joe, I don't know if you knew, this is based on a short story by Clive Barker called The Forbidden. So that's in the Books of Blood. You'd probably like the Books of Blood when you get a little bit bigger. Let's go to the B. And the B tells us, the Candyman, a murderous soul with a hook for a hand, is accidentally summoned to reality by a skeptic grad student researching the monster's myth. All right, so let's do our rundown here. Let's do our plot. Let's go through the story.
Yeah.
And obviously,
it's a good story.
Yeah, we are spoiling this one. It came out in September of 92. If you haven't seen it by now, that's your own fault. So,
Oof.
Yeah, so go see it. And I think there's going to be new interest in it because of the new Jordan Peele version that he's producing is coming out pretty soon. And there's other films in the franchise.
He's making 2 new movies.
He's making 2 new movies.
Antebellum. Candyman.
Yes, that's true. So we have Helen. Helen is a grad student in Chicago, and it seems like she's researching urban legends. You see her meeting with different kids, and then this person mentions a story about someone named Candyman. And so that's one of the first things we see is we see this young woman in this house, and this biker guy comes over who's played by Ted Raimi, which I don't think you know who Ted Raimi is yet, but
No.
The more horror movies we watch, you will learn who Ted Raimi is.
He sounds familiar.
Well, he has a brother named Sam Raimi, Spider-Man, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead, all those big movies. Drag Me to Hell, which we watched. That's a good one. So she goes to this mirror and she's like, Candyman, 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 Candyman. And then she's like, go downstairs. And he's like, all right, I'm going to go and drink a beer because I'm cool and I'm going to sit there. And then screaming and then, yeah. So they're working on their thesis. And they're like, we need to get more information on this Candyman guy because this seems interesting. This lady who's a cleaner at the university is like, oh, you need to check out Candyman. And he lives over at Cabrini Green. So
That's where he lives.
Yeah, that's where he lives. Cabrini Green is no longer there. Cabrini Green is one of the scariest areas of Chicago, and like I said, it's gone now that it was demolished. Yeah, demolished in 2011, so it's gone now. So they go there, and her homie is like, "Hey, we shouldn't go here because this is a real bad part of town."
Bad.
Yeah, that's bad. So her and Bernadette go there, and they're looking around, and then they go to the old apartment where this stuff happened, and then she crawls through the window and starts taking pictures, and then this lady's like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And she's like, hey, we're looking for information.
Yeah.
So they go to this lady's apartment. Her name's Anne Marie, and got this really cute little baby named Anthony, and this cute dog too. I don't know the dog's name. I don't know if you know the dog's name.
Dog.
Yeah, dog. That sounds right. So they get some more information from her, and then they're like, all right, well, cool. We're going to write this paper. So they start writing more.
Type.
Yep, type. And then she goes out to dinner with her husband, who is clear he's a little weird. He's a little shady because the first time you meet him in the movie is when she goes to the classroom
Yeah.
And like he's talking to all these students, and it seems like he's got something going on with this student. So, parent advice, Joe: don't ever go for the younger woman like that. As you get older, man, it's just trouble. Go older women. Older women are cool. They're much better.
Okay.
I know you don't care about that stuff right now, but this is parenting lessons.
Okay.
So they go out to dinner, and then there's this weird professor guy with long hair who you said reminded you of who?
Benjamin Franklin.
Yep. Okay. So Professor Purcell, we're going to call him
Benjamin Franklin.
Yep, Ben Franklin. So Ben starts telling this. He's like, "We already wrote a paper on Candyman 10 years ago. Don't you know the story?" Hey, Benjamin Franklin actually spent a lot of time in France.
Yeah.
And so since we're going, it seems pretty fitting.
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of fills him in on the story of what happened. That this guy named Candyman, I think his name wasn't actually Candyman. So he was accepted by like white people, and then he fell in love with a white girl, and they're like, "You can't do that because that's not allowed."
That's bad.
Yeah, that's bad. So then this lynch mob starts up, and then they cut his right hand off, and then cover him with honey, and then he gets stung to death, and then he was burned, and ashes were scattered. Yeah. So they go back to Cabrini Green, and then Helen meets this little boy named Jake, who Jake's a cute little guy, and he's like, he tells all about Candyman, and tells about this other boy who was castrated by Candyman. That's not good. And so then Helen's like, "All right, you stay here, Jake. I'm gonna go inside here." So she's looking in this really gross bathroom and taking pictures, and then Jake's outside, and this guy walks up next to him and goes, "Candyman." And you're like, "Whoa, is that the actual Candyman?"
Whoa, what is not?
It's not. So then this gang member, this drug dealer guy comes in and like beats Helen up real bad. So Helen survives the attack, and next thing they're at a police station, and Jake's like, "We had a deal. You weren't supposed to tell anyone." It's like, "You don't have to tell anybody. You don't have to go to court." He's like, "All right, cool." So then a little while later, Helen's all healed up. She's feeling better. She goes back to school, and she's walking through the parking garage, and then she starts hearing Tony Todd's cool voice, because he has the coolest voice of all time. Hey, there's a ball rolling down the street.
Where?
Oh, there it goes. Oh, it's coming. Just wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Oh, I think it got stuck on maybe that car. Oh, there it is. Woo! There's a ball going down the street. Go ball. Oh, it got stuck on the lawn. Okay.
Bummer.
Back to our review. I think we'll leave that in too. That's part of the fun of our show. You never know what's going to happen, folks. Okay, so she meets the actual Candyman.
And she's like, "Whoa."
Yeah, and that part's actually, I don't know. I think it's a creepy. It's a pretty intense part, because she hears his voice and sees him, and she just instantly goes into tears. Like, he's this overwhelming presence. And that's one of the things I really like about Candyman. Like, he's scary. Like, and I think when you're confronted with something that you don't believe to be real, and then you find out it's real, like, that's a terrifying experience. And that could be from anything. Like, do you remember the movie Dogma? About the two angels that were kicked out of heaven, and now they live in Wisconsin, and they're trying to undo existence. So at the end of that movie, they meet God, and it's Alanis Morissette, which is pretty ridiculous, but
and then she's doing somersaults.
Yeah, but how instantly when they see her, they just start crying. And I think that's one of those things when you're confronted with a absolutely not unbelievable, but something that's so beyond your ability to believe that it's real. I think it's overwhelming. So I really like that.
Plus she almost dies.
Yeah. Yep. That's true. So she blacks out, and then she wakes up in Anne Marie's apartment. She's covered with blood, and she's like, "What's going on? I don't understand." And then she
has a towel over her too.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Yeah. I don't know. But there's blood everywhere, and then you see the dog's decapitated head, and then Anne Marie's freaking out because the baby's missing. And then she goes to like you can't tell if it's a police station or a mental hospital or something. So she goes, they clean her up, they get her out of there. And then Trevor's like, "Oh, I'm worried about you. Are you going to be okay?" And you're kind of like, something's going on with this dude. Because she's like, "Where were you last night?" He's like, "I was fast asleep."
But he wasn't, because he saw it earlier. Yeah,
because he's hooking up with not high school. Yeah. The college girl. Better not be a high school girl, man. She's like, "All right, that's cool." She doesn't really say it like that, but so she takes off, or he takes off, and then she's she's hanging out, and then all of a sudden Candyman shows up again. And then right at that time, her homie Bernadette's at the door, knocking on the door.
So, "Let me in." Yeah,
let me in, Helen. So Candyman takes his hook and jams it in her neck, and she's bleeding all over the place. So she like falls over, and she's all weak. And then
Helen or Bernadette, leave, go away.
Yeah, get out of here, get out of here. So Bernadette comes inside, and then you can tell right away that she sees the Candyman. And then when Helen kind of comes to, she's all confused. She's like on a bed. She's like kind of zip tied or something like that. And then she sees her dead homie on the ground, because she's all murdered and stuff. So they take her to the psychiatric hospital, which is, that's a good thing to do. Turns out she's actually been in the hospital for a month. She doesn't realize that. She just remembers when they first strap her down that Candyman appears over her, kind of floating. And I thought that part was cool because it kind of has this gothic feel. I love gothic horror, which is the kind of atmosphere and the dread and the supernatural. And it really has a supernatural kind of gothic feel. So she wakes up and they take her in to go see the psychiatrist, Dr. Burke. And he's like, it's been a month, lady. And she sees a video of her when she supposedly sees Candyman and she's all by herself. And then she's like, well, I can prove it. I'm going to summon Candyman right now. So she looks in the mirror across the room and says it 5 times. And they're just kind of sitting there awkwardly. And then all of a sudden the hook goes through the dude and kills the doctor. And, Candyman's like, oh, you're mine. And he flies out the window, but like cuts her restraints first. So then she like sneaks around the hospital. One of your favorite parts, Joe. So she climbs out the window and she's like edging along the balcony.
And then she gets to another patient's room and there's a doctor in there. So then the doctor tries to help her out. So she opens the window and she tries to help her down. But Helen falls on top of her and like slams her onto the ground.
Yeah, that was pretty messed up, man. Yeah. Helen's bad news. Like whether like she's Candyman or not, she's just bad news. Because she's not very nice. Yeah, so she like runs off and then she goes home. She's like, oh God, I hope he's home. What? Trevor, yeah. She's like, I hope Trevor's home. So she goes home and it's like partially painted pink. Then all of a sudden there's the college girl and they're painting the apartment pink. And then he comes out wearing like a robe. And they're painting this apartment pink and they get really scared because she's there. And she throws some paint around and, and then she runs off and they like kind of, you guessed that they get the phone or something like that.
And then she also makes a comment on the color scheme.
Yes.
She doesn't like it.
No, she doesn't like it, which is fair. I mean, I don't think anyone wants a pink apartment.
No.
So she's like, all right, well, I'm just going to go over to Cabrini Green. Right? Is that what we were? Let's see.
Because then she goes over there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so after that, she goes over to Cabrini Green and she sneaks back into where the Candyman is and saying, like, hey, I want that baby. Like, yeah. I'll go ahead and I'll go with you.
Give me that baby.
Yeah, like, I'll take the deal. I'll trade my life for the babies. So Candyman opens his coat and then all the bees come out and then he kisses her and the bees go into her. And then Candyman, like, kind of takes off. He gets the baby, but you really don't know what's happening. And then she wakes up and she's walking around and then she sees this big mural on the wall and realizes that it's her. And so the reason why Candyman ends up caring about her so much is because she reminds him of his former woman from back in the day that he was killed over. So the Candyman's like, all right, like, I'll release Anthony if Helen becomes part of like my myth, becomes part of who I am. And then, so then some time goes on. She's like, here's this baby crying outside. It's like, where's this baby crying?
Where is it?
Yeah, where's this baby? So then they realize it's this big bonfire. They've been like stacking things up outside. So she runs out there and she has the hook and she's pulling things down and she
slips.
Yeah, she slips and she throws some stuff. And then she goes inside this big pyre that they've built for this bonfire and sees the baby in there.
Yeah.
And so she gets the baby and then Candyman shows up and he's like, hey, it's time. And then you see Jake and his homies outside and like Candyman's in there because they saw a hook. And so they light it on fire. And so she's trying to get away and get the baby. And then she starts getting away and then manages to crawl barely out. But Candyman gets caught on fire. And she's all burnt to a crisp. But the baby's safe and hands it back to the mom. And
Anne-Marie.
Yeah, Anne-Marie. So that's kind of the end of Helen there. And at the end, 2 things happen. So you see her funeral. And in her funeral,
The entirety of Cabrini Green.
Yeah, all of Cabrini Green shows up and throws the hook in there. Which, I don't know, that's kind of a weird thing. Like, is that like a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know.
I think it's good.
You think so?
Yeah.
Because, like, hey, you took him out. Mm-hmm. So then, the very end of the movie.
It's like a souvenir.
Yeah, souvenir. Like, hey, you did good. Yeah. It's like your war trophy. So, end of the movie, you have Trevor in his apartment with the college girl, and he's in the bathroom. He's crying. He's sad, which is understandable. I mean, even though he was a cheater, he still probably cared about his wife. At least I hope so. And then the college girl's getting mad because he's just in the bathroom.
He won't help make dinner.
Yeah, she just wants to make a nice salad, I think. And then so she starts throwing a steak around and getting upset. And then he's looking in the mirror and he's all sad. He's like, Helen. And he says it 5 times, and all of a sudden power flashes and she shows up and then murders him. And then Stacy is like, Trevor? And then runs in the bathroom and sees him dead, and she's holding a butcher knife. So it's like, does the whole thing start all over again?
Probably. And that is Candyman. Huh. These are pretty interesting descriptions that we go through. I don't think I'm a very good storyteller, but I think it's entertaining. Yeah. First impressions. Go. Me? Okay. So, I liked the characters because I think Bernadette, I think she's a very nice person. But, Helen isn't very nice. Like, when she meets Jake, and he says he's not scared, right? And she, tricks him into telling her where Candyman is, even though he doesn't want to, by saying if he doesn't do it, he's scared, and he doesn't want that. Mm-hmm. So that's not a very good thing to do. Nope. To a 9-year-old, maybe. Yeah. I liked how it just jumped right in the beginning of the movie, and you didn't really know what was going on. And then I think my favorite character was Anne Marie. Because she's different than all the people in Cabrini Green. Mm-hmm. And I liked how Candyman kind of made it seem that Helen was doing all this so that living would be so hard that she would want to come with him.
Yep.
So that was my first impression.
Cool. Yeah. Do you think it's a scary movie at all, or
some parts? I think.
Some parts.
Yeah.
I do think this is the best horror movie of the 90s. I think there was a couple other good ones in there, but for legit horror movies, I think this one was probably the best. Again, it has those kind of cool gothic elements. I think you have a somewhat sympathetic bad guy because it's sad what happened to him.
Yeah.
And that lends into some moral confusion, whether is it okay to root for the bad guy, which is an episode that we're working on for Anatomy of Fear right now, because of what happens. And I mentioned this to you last night after we watched it, is that I'll be curious to see what you think of the second one when we watch that, because I think that adds to it as well, because you actually see some more of what happened to him. And I actually like the second one quite a bit. Any other thoughts on Candyman?
I like how they were able to bring Benjamin Franklin back to life.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean, the guy did a lot for the country. So it's good that he's doing something with the story. I think he had the same teeth, though, because I don't know if you noticed that dude's teeth were pretty gross.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, well, that is our review for Candyman.
Yeah.
And we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back with Jojo Rabbit.
Oh, Ozempic. Whoa.
Never pillow in the morning. Never been away, hey, never seen a day break. Leaning on my pillow in the morning light. Oh, ho, ho, it's magic, you know. Never believe it's not so. It's magic, you know. Never believe it's not so. Ho, 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 it's magic, you know. Never believe it's not so. It's magic, you know. Never believe it's not so.
Okay, welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, sir. And now we are on to 2019's Jojo Rabbit. And yes, not a horror movie, not a genre movie, just a all-over pretty good movie, I would say. So 2019, directed by Taika Waititi, what movie do you know him from?
What We Do in the Shadows.
Yes. So one of my favorite movies, What We Do in the Shadows. I just think he's great, man. And he also plays Hitler in this. So just, it's really good.
Yeah.
And so on top of that, we also have Rebel Wilson, Stephen Merchant, Alfie Allen, Sam Rockwell, Scarlett Johansson, Thomasin McKenzie, and then Roman Davis as Jojo.
Pretty good cast.
Yes, excellent cast. So our synopsis from the B: a young boy in Hitler's army finds out his mother is hiding a Jewish girl in their home. And so we are going to preface this with, if you have not seen this movie, we're going to spoil it a little bit. Not too much, but I'd recommend just skip over this. Just join us next time. We appreciate your time, but this movie's worth seeing.
Yeah.
It's an excellent movie. So to those who haven't seen it and don't want it to be spoiled, say, okay, see you.
I see you.
And here we go with Jojo Rabbit in 3, 2, 1. Okay, here we go. Here we go, Jojo. And that's a nickname that we also have for you, Joey, is Jojo.
But I'm a human.
That's true. You're real.
Yeah.
Not a character in a story. So, okay, so it's the end of World War II. Like, we're getting close to the end of World War II. And we got this little 10-year-old guy, Johannes Betzler, a.k.a. Jojo. He's this nice, sweet little boy. He seems really kind.
Yeah.
And he's really into the Nazis. And he has an imaginary friend and happens to be Hitler. But he's like this really goofy, kind of fun-loving, friendly Hitler.
Not very smart either.
No, very kind of dumb.
Yeah.
But just like gets him hyped up and like just wants to be his friend. And then Hitler Youth Camp is coming up, so he's really excited, and that's Captain Klensdorf, and so that's played by Sam Rockwell, who's really good in that role. And then you also have Alfie Allen in there from Game of Thrones, and he's one of the Nazi guys, and they have this kind of weird relationship, kind of like there's some love going on between the two, so that's a little strange as well. But so they're at Nazi camp. And I did explain to you, like, that was a real thing. Like, Hitler Youth was a real thing. He just goes by Johannes, but there's this one point at training camp where, like, you have to kill this rabbit. And he's like, he doesn't want to kill this rabbit. Oh. So they all start calling him Jojo Rabbit to try and taunt him, and then he tries to make the bunny go away. In a terrible attempt, the bunny makes, like, 2 steps, and then he runs off, and then Hitler kind of gives him this pep talk. Yeah. Just saying, it's okay, Jojo, like, my kingdom needs all kinds of animals. I don't remember all of them, but there were some good ones. But The rabbit was definitely one of those. So then so he's all psyched up and he's ready to go. So they start running back towards everyone.
Yeah.
And they're now doing grenade training. So he runs off and he grabs a grenade and he throws it and it like hits a tree.
And it bounces back.
Bounces back and he like blows himself up. And so then Jojo
Then he looks like a Picasso painting.
Yeah, Picasso painting. So then he basically like he can't be part of Nazi camp anymore. Can't because he's injured. So they just give him little tasks like propaganda leaflets, collecting scrap, metal and junk for the war.
All things that don't involve guns.
Yes, yeah, things that don't involve weapons. And I think a lot of that's because of his mom kind of scaring Captain Klinsdorf a little bit. Klinsendorf, because she's a little scary.
Yeah.
So he's walking around and he's wearing this great robot costume, and then he hugs his best friend Toki. Was it Toki? Was that the other cute little kid's name?
Yeah, I think something like that.
Let's see.
I don't remember.
Yorkie. Yeah. So Yorkie, who's Jojo's best friend, and he's like a full-on like Nazi now, and he has like a gun, and he's 10 or 11 years old, and then Jojo's wearing his robot costume. So then, and he like sees his mom walking around, right? And it's like, what's my mom doing? Like, what's she doing out? So then Jojo then discovers that there is a Jewish girl hiding in the upstairs of his home. So then he basically decides, I'm going to learn all about the Jews from this girl. So he's like writing like this book of Jew secrets. And it's like there's all these drawings and she's telling him like, that food will instantly kill Jews and like all this funny stuff. So then he you can tell Jojo's starting to get confused because his mom is like protecting this Jewish girl. But it's like, that's his mom. He's like, so what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to be a Nazi or am I supposed to, be loyal to my mom? So again, Jojo keeps getting to know this young girl, Elsa, and it's like they're getting close and they're becoming friends, even though he's like a Nazi, even though she says you're not a Nazi. And then the Gestapo show up and, question him, and then she pretends to be his sister. And throughout this whole time, you learn that, or they kind of imply that Jojo's father, he's gone. Like he was fighting in the war, but he either took off or something like that. So he's not around anymore. So the war is clearly escalating. And then the mom is, she kind of disappears. Then Jojo's out in the town and then sees his mom hanging from gallows because they figured out that she was helping the Jews.
Yeah.
So, they just keep developing a relationship together, and it's like they really do love each other and care about each other. And then Americans roll into town and save the day. Everything's great. And then it ends with them dancing in the street.
Yeah.
And that is our pretty quick run through. We skipped a lot just because I don't want to cover too much about it. But that is Jojo Rabbit. So, my Jojo, what did you think of Jojo Rabbit?
I thought it was really funny. There was a lot of like really funny parts and things that like really needed explanation, but there was no explanation for them because they were just so weird. Mm-hmm. So that made it really enjoyable. I also liked the story of Jojo and what was her name? Do you remember her name?
The Jewish
Elsa.
Yeah.
Like how it grew through the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Also between Jojo's mom and Jojo.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That was
What did you think of Rebel Wilson?
she had a really good character.
Yeah, she's funny. Yeah. Talks about how many children she's had for the Reich, and she's just like, she is gung-ho. Yeah. She is like the most Nazi ever, so she's really good in it too. Yeah. The whole cast is good though. Like, I like when the Gestapo show up to their house, and it's Stephen Merchant. So do you remember the really, really tall guy? The really tall Gestapo guy?
Yeah.
I don't know if you realize that's the co-creator of The Office. So I don't know if you knew that. But he's like 6'9", like he's just this giant. But I love how every time they say hi to someone new, they all have to say Heil Hitler. Yeah. So it's like a minute of Heil Hitler, Heil Hitler, Heil Hitler, Heil Hitler, Heil Hitler. And there's just lots of little funny moments like that. It's interesting how at the beginning, it seems like Hitler is so fun and loving in this. We're like, wow, which direction are they taking this? And then throughout the story, you start realizing how toxic and bad Hitler is actually for Jojo. So I was glad that they did that shift, because there's no sugarcoating or justifying like Hitler at all.
No.
And so at the beginning you're like, oh, this is a fun Hitler. And you like this imaginary Hitler, but then it's really good that they made you not like him throughout the entire movie. And because again, he's like the worst person in history pretty much. So, so I'm glad that they did that. But really sweet movie. I mean, great score, good music. You had some cool like classic songs in there, but all in German, which was kind of fun. Oh, hey, look. Hey, there's the kids. They found their ball. Yeah, I mean, that rolled like at least a block down the road, block or two. So good job, kids.
Woohoo.
Yeah.
They did it.
Yeah. Congratulations. But yeah, so there's some really good music in there done in German, and then the dancing at the end. But I really like this movie a lot. I think this one is worth not just a watch, but a purchase. This is it's a good movie. Taika Waititi, I mean, he's still like, you can kind of tell it's the same, it's him with the same kind of personality as from What We Do in the Shadows. So I'm glad that we watched this one. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about Jojo Rabbit?
No.
Okay. Well, with that, folks, I guess that means we're done.
Yeah.
So that is episode number 3 of He's Gonna Need Therapy. We haven't gotten into any movies that are really gonna mess him up yet. Nothing that's really scared him yet, so that's good, I guess. So next time, episode number 4.
4.
For episode number 4, which will get out hopefully sometime in the near future.
Yeah.
Joe, do you want to tell them what 2 movies we'll be doing?
The 2 movies we will be doing are 2001: A Space Odyssey and Underwater.
Yes, from this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, big difference in movies there. A lot of age in between the two, a lot of years. But I think dealing with this kind of otherworldly environment, like outer space and underwater.
Yeah.
And I really liked Underwater, so I'll be curious to see what you think about it. And with that, we are done. So again, all done. We just want to thank everyone for tuning back in. This is just a quick, fun little thing that we're doing, and we appreciate that you're jumping in with us and going through. Please leave us any feedback. Get on the Facebook page at The Anatomy of Fear. Leave us any comments, please.
Yes, please.
If there are specific movies that you'd like us to watch, please give us some recommendations.
That's a good idea.
Some other titles that we're considering for the future are things like Bloodsport. Let's see, The Crow is one that I like to do. Boys in the Hood. But there's a big list of things that I'm working on for us to go through. But please, give us your feedback. If you're not too busy, go over to iTunes, give us a quick review. It takes a few seconds and it helps our podcast quite a bit. You can also support the show just by sharing it and telling your friends about it. So thank you so much. Any parting words?
Ozempic. Whoa.
And for the second episode in a row, Joe is doing the Ozempic, which is apparently some kind of medication for something, and I don't know what he's talking about. Yeah. But if any of you have children, you'll understand that sometimes they do this, and that's okay. And we're out of here. We'll see you later.